Ms. Corey.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Tell these jurors your name.
Sean Lee Atkins,
Spell your name for the court reporter.
SHAWNLEEATKINS.
Are you currently incarcerated in the Florida State Prison?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Can you tell the jury the circumstances of your incarceration?
In March and April 2013, broke into a house, and I also stole gold from a family member, and I sold it. Caught 25 charges, all felonies.
Okay. Did you admit to those crimes?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you became convicted as a felon as a result of those crimes?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your sentence?
7 years, Florida Department of Corrections.
In which county were you prosecuted and sentenced?
Clay County, Florida.
And by whose office were you prosecuted?
Yours, ma'am.
How many felonies total were there to which you pleaded guilty?
25.
Were those all of the ones on which you were arrested?
I was arrested originally with 6, and then they bumped it up to 20, and then I got an extra 5 after about a month.
Was that based on multiple counts on several incidents?
It's the same thing, but I sold the gold at different times, and for every time I sold it, got another charge.
So all of your felonies were connected to the instances you just described to this jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you sentenced then by the Clay County judge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that's the county south of here, still in this circuit though, right?
Yes.
You've never been sentenced or handled by Judge Healy, correct?
Never.
Or by any other judge in Duval County?
Never.
Okay. And to remind the jurors again, to what term of prison did you get sentenced?
7 years.
Did all of this occur after November 23rd of 2012?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. However, in November of 2012, were you on misdemeanor probation?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
On what type of charge for that?
Civil battery and domestic battery.
Okay. Prior to November of 2012, where did you live?
In my truck.
In what county and city?
Duval, Jacksonville, on the south side.
Why were you living in your truck?
I was homeless. My mom kicked me out.
Where was your mother living?
Arlington.
How old were you then?
21.
Did you have any contact with your father at that time?
No.
Were you employed?
Not until December
Of which year?
2012.
So in November of 2012, taking your attention back to that, where were you actually living?
Just out of my truck.
And with whom were you living in your truck?
My girlfriend at the time, Lauren Alderman.
Was Lauren Alderman employed in November of 2012?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
Was she living with you in your truck?
Yes.
Okay. Was she also homeless?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Was she also homeless?
Yes, ma'am.
And both of you were living in your truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you keep your belongings in your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What type of truck did you have?
An 88 Dodge Dakota extended bed.
Let me take your attention to Friday evening, November 23rd, 2012, at approximately 7 p.m., 1900 hours. Where were you and Miss Alderman living in your truck? I mean, where was your truck parked?
At the Winn-Dixie on Bay Meadows and Southside.
Why were you there?
That's where we were planning on sleeping for the night.
Let me show you an aerial photograph marked into evidence as State's Exhibit 3.
Can you see that on the screen?
No.
Okay, it's not up on our screens, and I don't think, Judge, we still see the courthouse on our screens. All right. Now, realizing that...
Ladies and gentlemen, can you all see it? Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Realizing that that doesn't show the actual Winn-Dixie building, can you just circle the area near where you and Miss Alderman were parked?
Around that way. 'Cause that's the Publix right there. And then a little bit over is the Winn-Dixie.
Okay, so that side of the street. Are you familiar with where the Gate gas station is?
Very.
Okay, can you put a circle around the Gate gas station? How were you familiar with the Gate gas station at that time?
I lived over on Bay Meadows prior to living over in Arlington, and I went to that Gate gas station a lot before that, and then when me and Lauren were living over on the south side of the truck, we'd use that to go use the bathroom.
And so you're familiar with that intersection, are you familiar with it?
Very familiar with it.
Did there come a time around 7:30 when you and Ms. Alderman actually went to the gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you show the jurors on this aerial as well, if you can see it? Why don't you tap the screen, it'll erase those circles. Kind of draw the route that you took to go to the gate station. What was the traffic like on that evening, do you recall?
Jacksonville traffic. Light, not too heavy for evening.
Okay. And when you pulled into the gate gas station, were there sufficient parking spaces available for you and Mrs. Alderman, or Ms. Alderman, to park and pull up in front of the station?
Yes, ma'am.
Where specifically did you pull in once you drove into that area?
To the far left parking space. There's you got the front, the glass, the ice chest, and there's a parking space.
All right, let's show State's Exhibit 8, please. I'm going to ask you to look at State's Exhibit 8 in evidence. And does that depict the area where you parked?
Yeah.
Was your car gone at this time, by the
Yes.
time this picture was taken? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But can you show the jurors approximately where you parked? Was it still light enough for you to see what was going on between you and the front door of the gate gas station?
Plenty.
Plenty
Plenty.
of light?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pull in to your parking space or back in?
I pulled in.
Did you see any other cars backed in, or were they all pulled forward?
They're all pulled forward.
Was there a vehicle in the parking space to your right, immediately to your right? As you pulled in, one parking space closer to the door, was there anybody right there?
No, ma'am. I believe it was open for like 2 spaces.
So 2 spaces over, no cars in between.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you notice a car in that third space closer to the door?
I believe that was the Durango.
What color Durango?
Red.
Was there any reason you noticed that car at that particular time?
Not really.
Did you get out of the car at that time, or did you stay in the car?
I stayed in the car
Why did you stay in the car?
because it's Jacksonville and I don't trust people. And I let Lauren go to the bathroom first. And then I was going to go when she came back.
Was it because your belongings were in the car?
Yes.
Now, did you observe anything unusual at the time Miss Alderman was getting out of the car?
Nothing.
Were your windows up or down?
Well, my windows were down.
And did you hear any loud music of any kind?
No, ma'am.
What were the weather conditions that you recall when you actually pulled in and parked at the gas station?
Humid.
Was there any heavy rain?
No rain. It was clear.
Outside of normal traffic, was there anything loud that would have disturbed your ability to hear what was going on around you? Car alarms, store alarms? Did you have your own radio on? Anything like that?
No, my truck was off. I didn't hear nothing.
And then when Miss Alderman opened her passenger door, did you hear anything at that specific time?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever hear any cursing or threatening statements?
No, ma'am.
How long would you say Miss Alderman was out of the car before something did happen?
Less than a minute.
Could you ever see any car parked on the other side of that red Dodge Durango?
Not really.
Tell the jurors, while you were pulled up, the whole time you were sitting there and Miss Alderman got out of the car, did you ever see any of the occupants of the red Dodge Durango get out of that car?
I didn't see him get out of the car, but I saw the driver come out of the gas station and get into the car.
And how did you know it was a driver?
He went to the driver's side.
May be obvious, but we have to get these questions on the record. And did you notice anything about him specifically?
Not really.
Was it a male or a female?
A male.
And was he black or white?
Black.
Did you see or hear him do or say anything?
No, ma'am. Not at all.
And he got right into his car?
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, were there any vehicles between you and the red Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am.
What happened then?
Started hearing gunshots. I heard 2 of them before I looked over. It sounded like firecrackers going off. I thought someone was playing a joke. And then when I look over, the red Durango was backing out real fast. and I see a man shooting outside of a Volkswagen, like a grayish colored car. And then the Durango drove off behind me, and shots were still being fired
By who?
by the man and the white man in the car,
Can you describe whether or not he was older or younger?
older.
Did you ever see any of the young men in the Durango with any type of weapon at that point?
Never.
What did the Durango do when the shots first started firing?
Fled.
And
They
describe to the jury.
pulled out straight back and turned my way, drove off behind me toward the other plaza.
All right, I want you to stop a minute and just describe what you mean by the other plaza to the jury.
Well, there's the gate gas station. Gate gas.
Hold on one second, Mr. Atkins. I'm going to take you back to this photo. Can you just show the jurors what you mean by the other plaza?
Well, the gate's right here, and then over here is our plaza.
Okay, tap that screen. And I want you to show me, did the red Durango back all the way into that other plaza?
No, they drove forward.
Okay, so
Oh,
I call it a 2-point turn. Is that fair to say where you back and then turn?
Yes,
That
ma'am.
might not even be the right phrase, but just do that on the map. Show the jury exactly what you saw the red Durango do. Okay, do you know how far it went?
after I left the gas station parking lot, I turned my attention back to the gun.
Okay, and did you clearly see the driver of that black Volkswagen, or you said, I think, you
Grayish.
said grayish Volkswagen, did you clearly see that being the only person with the gun?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Your Honor, may he step down over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want you to step down. And from the time you focused your attention on the shooter, I want you to show the jurors what you saw the shooter do. Same hand position, same stance, if there was one. For which set of shots was that? As far as you know? Okay, and was there, at that point, was the Durango clearly pulled out of there? Was there anybody between you and watching the shooter take that stance? What type of stance did you describe that as? Okay, you better take the stand because of the microphone, I'm sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. Why did you describe that as a police stance?
Just the way he was crouched and holding the gun.
Did it appear that this shooter was aiming that gun at the red Dodge Durango?
I don't really know the trajectory of guns. I don't shoot guns, but I assume because it was in that direction.
Okay. What happened next?
His girlfriend or lady friend came out of the store, looked
How did you know it, and who is his? You need to be more
Mr.
specific.
Dunn's or the white man who
Okay.
was driving the car and shooting the gun. The lady came out of the store, looked crazy, but like she didn't know what was going on, and jumped into the passenger seat. And that's when they drove off behind me.
Did you hear the lady friend say anything before she jumped into the gray Volkswagen?
No, ma'am.
Did you see the look on her face?
Shocked.
Did you ever hear the man shooting say anything before he drove off?
No, ma'am.
All right, and if you'll tap that screen and erase the mark you have showing where the red Durango went, did you notice how the shooter left that parking lot?
Yes, ma'am. The same
Show
way.
the jurors how the shooter left. So, following the red Durango?
Yeah, the same direction.
Okay. Now, what did you do? That black, you described it as gray. Was it light gray or dark gray?
Dark gray.
Okay, when you saw what you thought was a dark gray Volkswagen, when it backed out and then when it started heading towards the other plaza, as you called it, what did you do?
I turned around, got the license plate number.
How did you get the license plate number?
Saw it and memorized it.
Okay. And why did you do that, sir?
Because I had to do something.
I'm going to show you what.
Tearing up our equipment.
At least I remember to put it on, Judge. let me show you what's been marked as States 170 in evidence and ask you, sir, do you recall if that's the number
Yes,
that you
ma'am.
recall?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have anything to write on in your vehicle at the time?
No, ma'am.
So what did you do?
I memorized it, said it over and over and over until I got into the gas station.
Did you immediately go into the gas station after you memorized this tag number?
Yes, ma'am.
And for what purpose did you go inside the gas station?
To give it to the cashier.
Did you give it to a cashier?
Yes, ma'am.
Describe the cashier to whom you gave that license tag number.
Older white lady.
Now, did you see Miss Alderman when you went inside?
No.
Where were you giving this tag number to the cashier?
The front desk.
So was it possible that Miss Alderman walked behind you and went out the door?
She walked right past me. I didn't see her.
All right. What did you do after you spoke to the cashier?
I went to the bathroom to find her, to tell her we had to go. We had to go now.
Okay. Tell the jurors why you wanted to go so quickly.
November 19th, 2012, I was supposed to go to a probation meeting. I'm homeless, got no job, got no money. I don't want to go to jail. My girlfriend needs me to stay in a truck with her, so I didn't go. And I knew the police were coming, and I knew they were coming quick, and I needed to get out of there.
Okay. Did you find Miss Alderman inside that bathroom?
No.
So what did you do?
I headed back toward the entrance, and that's where I ran into her.
What did you tell her?
I didn't tell her nothing. I told her we needed to go.
You
I told her we needed to go. She looked at me, asked me, "What's going on?"
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
It's not for the
It's
truth.
innocuous, it's overruled.
Go ahead, sir.
She asked me, "What's going on?" I told her, "I'll tell you when we get in the truck and get on the road."
All right. Did you then get directly into your car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you immediately leave the parking lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Before you left that parking lot, did you ever see the dark gray Volkswagen with the shooter come back?
Never.
Did you ever see the red Dodge Durango come back?
As I was leaving the store and ran into Lauren, it was already back.
The red Dodge Durango was already back?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I want you to tell this jury, to the best of your memory, the best of your knowledge, how long it was between the time you saw the red Dodge Durango back out and go in to the other plaza, I think you called it, and the time you saw it back at that store.
About 2 minutes,
And why are you so sure of that?
because I was in a hurry.
And because of the reason you stated earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're going to show you a screen excerpt. Judge, we're not going to play the video, but just a screenshot from State's Exhibit 168. And were you aware there was video surveillance inside the gate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that you, sir, walking out?
Yeah, I'd be able to recognize that big jacket anywhere.
That is you?
That's my jacket.
Okay.
That's me.
And the timestamp, can you see it on there, on your monitor?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell the jurors what time this timestamp shows.
7:41 p.m.
And when you walked outside that door, sir, according to this timestamp at 7:41 p.m., was that red Dodge Durango back in that parking lot?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was it?
Right where the other truck was, or car.
Go back to States, I think 8. Hold on 1 second for me. Is that where you saw that red Dodge Durango?
I believe so.
And did you have to walk past it to get into your own vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Miss Alderman with you?
Yes, ma'am.
At that point, were the doors open on the Durango?
I don't recall.
Okay. But did you mention anything to Miss Alderman then?
No.
Did you leave the Gate gas station with Miss Alderman?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you headed?
So back to the Winn-Dixie.
What happened then?
We got to the second entrance to the plaza, the far entrance. And-
Of which plaza?
The run right next to the gate. And there's the entrance at the far end that leads over to Old Bay Meadows Road. And it right to Winn-Dixie. So she was looking at me, "Just tell me what's going on. Just tell me what's going on." So I told her. She slapped me.
What did you, hold on. What did you tell Miss Alderman was going on?
I told her somebody was shooting a gun. Someone's shooting a gun. I don't know. I got the license plate number, but she's telling me I had to go back
She slapped you?
multiple times.
Okay. And did she convince you to go back to the gas station?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went back, was she still with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able at that point to pull into the station?
No.
Were there police officers there?
Many.
Had they set up what we call a perimeter where they were blocking people coming in?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to tell one of the officers that you actually had seen the shooting?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, knowing that you were on probation and could get in trouble, did you stay there?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you tell the police everything you knew
Yes, ma'am.
and everything you saw?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you stay until they allowed you to leave? Did you ever go down to the police building
I went down to the police building.
knowing that you were on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was Miss Alderman, did she stay with you that whole time?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, just to remind the jurors, the charges for which you are now incarcerated occurred how many months after the Gate gas station incident?
About 5-6 months.
And you knew you were a witness in this case, is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever ask Miss Wolfson for any help? She was handling the case at that time.
Never.
You had met Miss Wolfson?
That night.
You knew she was a prosecutor in the Fourth Circuit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever ask her for any help on your charges in Clay County?
Never.
Did you ever alert Miss Wolfson or me or anyone else in Duval that you had charges pending in Clay County?
Never.
Did you ask for any help at that time?
No.
Have you since asked for help, just from then till now? You don't need to say specifically when, but have you asked for help? Did you speak with Mr. Guy?
Yes, ma'am.
Permission to lead, Your Honor, through this portion of it briefly.
Any objection?
No.
Okay. So just between the time that you got sentenced and the time that you knew we'd be coming to court at some point, did you speak with Mr. Guy before your deposition and request some help?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you sent a letter since that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the state of Florida been able to give you any help now that you're incarcerated?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And is your only hope of help that you might be able to file a motion before your own judge down in Clay County to let them know you've given this testimony in front of the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's why I needed to do that. Then may I have just a moment with co-counsel?
Yes, ma'am.
I have no further questions, Mr. Atkins.
Ms. Abel, cross.
Good morning, Mr. Atkins.
Good morning.
Now, prior to the shooting, would it be fair to say or accurate to say that the two cars were parked evenly, the Durango and the Volkswagen?
They're side by side.
Okay. One wasn't much further ahead of the other or behind?
I can't recall.
Okay. Well, did you notice anything unusual about the way the cars were parked?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, it's your testimony that as the Durango was leaving, that the shooter fired 7 shots?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, sir, isn't it true that, in fact, when the Durango was leaving, it's your recollection that the shooter was shooting into the ground?
Like I said, I don't know guns. Never. I shot one time, and that was when I was really little. It looked low, but I couldn't tell you. I don't know trajectory like that.
Okay, well, isn't it true, sir, that previously you had told the police that you thought he was shooting into the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you told him that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, isn't it also true, sir, that as you described the crouching stance or police stance, that actually it's your recollection there's a door between the shooter and the Durango?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the shooter would have had his door open, then he would have been behind his door,
Yes, ma'am.
and then the Durango,
Yes, ma'am.
putting a door between the shooter and the
Yeah.
Durango. And by door, I mean a car door.
Yes, ma'am. I know.
Now, sir, you were parked to the left of that Durango, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you really couldn't see what was going on the passenger side of that Durango?
No, I couldn't.
Okay, so you have no idea if anyone got out or got into the other side of the Durango, on the other side of you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you don't know if anybody on that side of the car had a weapon, because you couldn't see.
Correct.
And regarding the loud music, Mr. Atkins, you said that you didn't notice any loud music, but wouldn't it be more accurate to say you wouldn't have noticed if it was loud music?
I lived in Jacksonville for a long time. If there's loud music, I don't listen to it.
Okay, so if there were loud music, there's a good chance that you just ignored it.
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't paying attention. It wouldn't have
It wouldn't matter to me.
drawn your attention one way or another.
No, ma'am.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the order of how yourself, the Jetta, and the Durango arrived at the Gate gas station prior to the shooting. It's your recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Jetta was there when you pulled in,
I believe so.
the Volkswagen, I'm sorry. Then you pulled in,
Yes, ma'am.
and then after you pulled in, the Durango pulled in.
I believe so.
Okay, so it would have been Mr. Dunn's car first, then you, then the Durango last.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, regarding, I want to go back to your demonstration of Mr. Dunn as he's shooting those last shots. You've described it today in court as a crouching police stance. But, sir, did you talk to the police again that night that it happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and isn't it true on that night, when you were sworn in, you told him that he was leaning out of the car?
I possibly said that. It's been 2 years.
Okay, well, would you agree with me that your recollection of the events would have been fresher the night that it happened than it is today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, sir, when you approached Mr. Guy and asked him for help, specifically, what help did you ask him for?
I asked for 2 things: to stay at the Duval County Jail until the trial was over, and I was asked if I could get a sentence reduction out of this.
Okay. And you asked for a sentence reduction because you thought that the 7 years that you were given was too much
Yes, ma'am.
for 25 felonies.
I thought getting 25 felonies was too much for what I did. 7 years was ridiculous. I'm just 22 when I caught it, 23 now. I ain't gonna be getting out till I'm 29.
Okay, so you're a 25-time convicted felon, and in your opinion, 7 years is ridiculous, so that's why you approached Mr. Guy.
That and it's prison's
And the other.
prison's a very dangerous place.
And finally, Mr. Atkins, again, the night that this happened, when you were questioned by the detectives, they never asked you about the Durango leaving the scene. Isn't that correct?
I really don't recall.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkins, I want to ask you about the driver of that Durango.
Okay.
You said that you never saw him get out, but you saw him come back
Yes, ma'am.
and get into the car.
Yes, ma'am.
When he came out and got into the car, did you see him do anything unusual?
No.
Didn't see him do a little dance or dance to music out in the parking lot?
No, ma'am.
Didn't see that.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Corey?
Sir, do you recall in prior testimony doing the exact same demonstration and testifying under oath that the shooter had crouched in a police-like position.
Yes, ma'am.
And you did that under oath
Yes, ma'am.
prior to today.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have one exhibit I need to show him, Your Honor. I'll get it. I got it. I'm good. Excuse me, Your Honor, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
Top off of this for me. Just take the top off of that for me. I can't, yes, I don't lean over these things and fall head first into my exhibit. I have to take the whole bottom. There we go. Sir, I want to ask you, showing you State's Exhibit 171. Did you ever see anyone wearing this specific hat get out of that red Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see a head on either side of the red Dodge Durango coming out of any windows with this hat on?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
May he be excused?
Actually, he's staying until the end of the trial, so he can be excused for now, but he'll be subject to recall.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.